My favorite trading strategy is supply and demand. These levels give me some of the most reliable entries I've ever found, and they've helped me stay profitable for well over a decade. So in this video, I'm going to explain exactly how I use supply and demand in my trading, and if that sounds helpful, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and let's pop up the charts. Before we dive into the basics, let me show you a real trade I sent to 1,300 traders. Price came to my level of demand, closed inside the zone, and then reacted aggressively to the upside, which is exactly what you want from every supply and demand setup, eventually smashing my take profit with very minimal drawdown. I will break this trade down step by step later in the video, but first let's start with supply and demand for beginners. Now, why does supply and demand work so consistently? It's because I'm trading with the smart money. I'm buying from demand levels and I'm selling from supply levels. Now, who is considered smart money in trading? That's your banks and liquidity providers, the hedge funds, the market makers, and large proprietary trading desks that move the price. So when we see a really big move like this or a really big move like this, it tells us that smart money is buying from this level and smart money is selling from this level. And the beauty of supply and demand concept is they work on any time frame, and it can be used on forex, crypto, futures, anything. Now, once I know the smart money likes this level right here, all I have to do is draw my zone, wait for price to come back to that zone, and join in on that move with the smart money, following the footprint they already sent me. And the same goes for supply. I had a big move out of this level right here. I mark it up. I'm waiting for price to come back to that level. And if it does, I'm going short with the smart money and hopefully collecting my profits. Now, obviously, the market isn't always in clear uptrends and clear downtrends. Usually it looks a little bit more like this. We have levels of consolidation here, here, and here. And out of those levels are where we get those aggressive price pushes. And those aggressive pushes create levels of demand, right? Here's a level of demand. Up here, what? We have that level of supply. But if we were looking at this exact market structure, we would be looking to buy, right? We're looking at this level right here. This is the most recent demand that's being created. And this huge push up right there is creating imbalance. So if you look at the market structure here, we are in an uptrend, right? This is our swing low. We created a swing high right here. We created a new swing low right here, and we're creating a new swing high right here with this price breaking through this level of supply. So we would not take a sell trade from this level. Why? Because we're in an uptrend. Look, the market came up, it came down, and it came up. We had this level of supply here get broken, and so I would be waiting for the price from the top here to come back to this level of demand here, where I would get into a long trading position to continue that uptrend. So even though this example right here looks more complicated, as long as I understand the basic market structure and I map out my supply and demand zones properly, I can get into high probability winning trades. But in order to do this properly, traders have to know how to draw these zones properly, which is what I'm going to get into next. So what am I always looking for in a proper supply and demand zone? One, I want to identify a strong push. Two, I want to identify the candle before the push. And three, I want to draw a zone from that candle. Sounds simple enough. You can see right here, we get that huge push up. And right here, we get that huge push down. So then I'm drawing a demand zone off of this candle right here, wick to wick, pulling that across. And for my supply, wick to wick and pulling that across. Then I'm simply waiting for this price to come back to that level, and this price to come down to this level, my supply and my demand to get into trading opportunities. But in order to get the best zones, I also want to have fair value gaps, 3 to 4 candles or huge candles. I want to see a break of structure. I want to see price take out previous supply and demand, and I want to be in line with the overall trend. I want to be buying in uptrends and selling in downtrends. So a fair value gap is this right here. You can see there's a fair value gap right there. There is also a fair value gap right here, another fair value gap right here, and another fair value gap right here. Now, all that's telling us is that between these levels right here, we have market imbalance. See, market imbalance. And all that's telling us is the demand or the supply is stronger, because these are breakaway candles. Only smart money can create fair value gaps like this. Then number 2 is 3 to 4 candles. Look, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now it can just be one really big candle, but that is much more rare, especially when you're dealing with the smaller time frames. If you're in that daily, in that weekly, then you're definitely going to get a 1 candle level of demand. All right. 3, I want to have a break of structure. That's just this right here. You want to make sure that this candle, this impulsive move right down right here, is taking out this previous level. And the same goes for the buy side. We just want to see this candle right here taking out this previous level. Really simple. Overall trend, that's pretty obvious, right? If you're in the uptrend, you want to buy. If you're in the downtrend, you want to sell, right? Don't worry, I'll show you examples of all of this. And then take out previous supply or demand. I kind of showed you this in the earlier example here. You could see we had a level of supply, price came up, takes out the supply, and then returns to demand. Okay, so if this price came to somewhere like here and it didn't break through and it didn't take that supply out, I would be less likely to take the trading position. So let's draw some demand zones right now. We are in an uptrend. We're looking for levels of demand. We have a level of demand right here. You could see it's a red candle before 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 green candles in a row. Price taps into that level right there, and you get an incredible reaction to the demand. So you could have taken a buy position right there, absolutely. But let's say you were looking over here and you thought that this was a level of supply. You probably wouldn't take the trade because it wasn't taken out, right? That supply was only taken out when we went above the level right there, okay? Do you see another demand? I see a level of demand off of this one right here. You could consider this right here, but it's a little bit wimpy, right? There's almost no fair value gaps there. There's not a big candle. You could see here, we've got the fair value gap right there, another fair value gap right here. So I'd be looking to go long in this level here. So waiting for the price to come down to my level. But look, it never came to my level, right? That's okay. It didn't come to the level. This is why I'll open up my market watch. I'll check a ton of different pairs when I'm demand trading to make sure that I'm getting demand zones I could use. Now, the next demand zone I'm looking at is probably this one right here. Again, red candle before the big push up. We've got our fair value gaps. We have the break of the previous structure here. And so I'd be waiting for price to come back to that level. And I like price to come back to the level slowly. Now, in this case, you could see it closed out the bottom, but it came right back in. So I would consider trading that position right there, taking an entry here. I would target this level over here. It's the recent level. Put a stop loss around here to be safe. And then I would let this one play out. You could see smashing my take profit. Very, very nice. Then what are we looking at? We're looking at another level of demand right here. Okay, good level of demand. Got the fair value gap right there. Look, took out previous structure. I don't consider this a supply, but if you did consider it a supply, look, that supply was taken out. Looking to go long from my zone somewhere over here, waiting for that price to come back. Got into the level, pull it over here, target recent price action, or maybe just target the fair value gap right there. That's fair value gaps are good levels to target. Put my stop loss around this level here. You can always look over here and get better stop loss levels as well, and then wait for the price to push up and smash the take profit. On this one, you can trail your stops and you can run this up much, much higher if you want. And that is all just from trend following with supply and demand. Now let's do a sell example, right? Price starts dumping off, creates an obvious level of supply, right? The green candle before the huge push down. What do we have here? We've got a fair value gap right there, another fair value gap right here. We have the break of structure right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red candles in a row, and I'm waiting for price to come back to my level, right? That's what I want to do. Is price going to come back? There it is. So I'm getting short off of my supply right there. I'll target recent price action right here and let the thing play out. Slowly but surely, smash my take profit right there. And then what am I doing? I'm looking for more supplies, right? Am I going to get another supply? I don't know. That's what I'm waiting to see. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Maybe you're looking at this one. Maybe you consider that a supply. If you did, look, you're in at the wick right there. Got another win. Now, in a little bit, I have a full trading strategy showing you how to use this with multiple time frames. But before that, I want to show you how I filter out bad supply and demand zones in order to keep my win rate as high as possible, because you know I love high win rates. Now, this may be the most important part of the video. I'm going to do rapid action, how to filter out bad zones. Following all of these rules has helped me so well in my trading. Look, we've got a great demand here, broke through structure, broke through this level of supply, broke and took out this level of supply. What an awesome looking setup, right? But then what do you get? You're getting some big red candles, and we're not entering on those. Look at these huge red candles, right? Don't set a limit order unless you really know what you're doing, okay? Look at this. It's slam right through here. That's not how you want to do it. What you really want to see is a slow in momentum. Look, we've got break a structure right here. We've got a nice push up. I'm waiting for price to come down. I want that price to slow down. Look, it slows down. It closes in the zone. That's where I can get my entry and push up, smash my take profit beautifully. I also want to make sure that I have a fresh zone. Look, we've got our break of structure right here. This level of supply is taken out, right? This is what we want to see. Then I want price to come down. Look, perfect reaction. Could have got into a trade right there, smashed a profit level right there, stop loss below the zone. Very nice setup. Now, do I want to use that zone again? No, it's not fresh anymore. Now, we're getting a couple of decent reactions off of this zone, but it is no longer fresh. So what does that mean? It's not going to hold. Eventually, we break through here. We would have hit our stop loss. I'm only hitting my demand when it's a fresh zone. When it comes into this zone over and over and over, it's getting weaker, and eventually it's going to break, if not break right away after the first usage. Now, the next thing I'm looking at is trend lines. Look, we're clearly in an uptrend. Price is pushing up, but there's a significant pullback, right? When is this pullback here going to end? Well, that's why I'm using a trend line right here. So I'm just drawing trend lines from the top of this level. I want to have 2, 3, maybe 4 touches, and then I want to see price break. That's going to help tell me we're starting to move back up and the pullback is over, all right? Look on this one again. The supply level right there is getting broken. This is a good level of demand. Price comes to the demand and shoots all the way up. On this one, I'd be entering probably off of this candle right here, right? I want a little bit of green momentum if I'm getting the tap in right there. Stop loss perfect where it is right there, or you can pull your stop loss below this wick right here, and that is the trend line. Another thing I'm looking for is I'm looking for the candle to close in the zone. Look, we're waiting for price to come to my level, slow in momentum. Look, it closes inside of the zone. That's what I want to see. I can then enter my long position off the green candle right there. Let's just target this level, right? This is an easy level right there. Price came to that level before, and it pushes up and hits it again. Look, I could have hit this level right here. What about a candle wick? What do you do if a candle wicks in the zone? Look, we wick into the zone right there. What I'll do is I'll enter at the top of that candle, right? Make sure that it closes bullish, and then what? I'll just target the top here. Why not? Let this thing play out. Touches that level again, and eventually comes and smashes my take profit. And if you're not sure about these trades, you can always take partials, right? Look at this level right here. That's a decent level for a partial, right? Because this could act as resistance. It acted as resistance here. It acted as resistance here. So pay attention to the levels when you're trading. Now, next, I'm going to show you the full multi-time frame trading strategy. But before I get into that, if you're looking for a place to trade, check out AAAFX. They are the sponsor of this video. The spreads are low. The commissions are low. It's where I'm doing all of my trading in 2026, and the link is in the description. So support the channel today, and let's get into the live supply and demand trading strategy. Now I'm going to show you the trading strategy with a live trade I analyzed for over 1,000 members in my VIP trading room. And it's not a perfect setup because trading is never perfect. I could go back and cherry pick something better, but this is just from a couple weeks ago. So let's jump in here on the 1 hour time frame to start. Okay, I've got a supply zone right there. Price is starting to push up. Look, it breaks through that supply right there. Created myself a nice level of demand right there. Got a break of structure right here. Got a nice fair value gap. And you can do all this. You can mark this up now. But look, it doesn't come down to my level, right? It doesn't come to demand, and it starts pushing up. That's all right. We create ourselves a new level of demand here. Maybe that's a level we're looking to get into a trade. And if we are, we may get an opportunity. But look, it looks like it missed, right? We didn't get into our level. That's fine. There's another aggressive push up out of this level right here. I got to break a structure right here. I took out this level of supply. So I've got a nice level of demand here on the 1 hour time frame. But let's not forget, I have another level of demand right here. So there's multiple levels of demand for me to take a look at. And what happens? Price comes. It comes to this level right there. On the 5-minute time frame, easy tap in right there, make some profit right there, and then wait for that price to come down and break through. Let's get ready for that next level of demand, right? This is what I'm waiting for here. So this level of demand is now cleared, and I'm using basically this level to this level right here as the entire demand. So let's go to that 5-minute time frame and show you what I was looking at when I was actually placing this trade and sending it to over 1,000 people. So let's continue to play this position out and see what happened here. I like trend lines, so I put that trend line on right there. I got a touch here, a touch here, a touch here, and then I broke through the trend line right there, which is what I want to see, right? I want to see price reacting well to this level. It's been coming down for a significant period of time, right? If we come on that 1 hour time frame, look, you can see, look, price has been basically coming down consistently right here. So I want to see some sort of a break and a reaction off of this level before I get in. I don't want to get in and clean, right? There's too many people counting on my trades. Then what did I do? I waited for price to come down, and I waited for this. I waited for the close in the zone. I like that close in the zone. So then I just waited for price to break back above this level right here, and that's where I entered the trading position. And from there on, there was simply no drawdown. Closed in the zone, price pushed up and went all the way to my take profit and continued up a little further for an excellent trading position using a 1 hour demand and a 5-minute entry. Now again, I could be like the other gurus and I could say, ooh, my stop loss was right here and my take profit was perfect all the way up here. Look how good this trade is. But that's not realistic trading, and that's not what we do here. I'm trying to keep this as real as I possibly can. And if that works for you, please smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, consider joining my trading room. The link is in the description. Watch this video right here. Definitely watch this video right here, and I'll be back next week. Much love.